Okay, so we're going to look at enabling restrictions on the iPad and just look briefly at how one might restrict access to certain apps, restrict access within certain apps, and some of the features that you might need when using the iPad with younger adults. Okay, the first thing we got to do is we got to enable restrictions. Okay, so here's my iPad on the screen. On the bottom right hand corner you'll see the settings. I'm going to click on that. And the general settings are all there, as you can see. Now the two options we're interested in is restrictions, as you can see there at the top, and accessibility. I'm going to start with accessibility, which is the second last option you'll see there. I'm going to click on that. Now accessibility has an option called guided access. Guided access is a relatively new feature coming in iOS 6. I'm going to click on guided access. And what guided access enables us to do is it enables us to restrict access to certain features on the iPad. So you can restrict access to the home button, you can restrict access to certain parts of the screen, and all that kind of stuff. So we'll demo it in later, but just for the moment I'm going to turn it on. Just by clicking that. And I'm going to set a passcode. Now the passcode that I'm going to use throughout this video is just going to be 1111. Obviously you should make yours a little bit more difficult for a student not to be able to remember or guess. I'm going to come out of accessibility and I'm going to go back to general. Okay, so let's start with just general restrictions. Okay, I'm going to clicking on restrictions and clicking on enable restrictions. Now I'm going to use the same passcode. I don't have to, but I'm just going to use the same passcode that I used earlier on. Now here's my options. Okay, the biggest one I guess is disabling or enabling Safari. Safari being the web browser on an iPad. So when I disable Safari, I do not allow any access to the internet through the web browser. Apps can still use the internet. You can probably still be able to check your email and stuff, but you can't open Safari and you can't browse the internet. Now that's maybe seems a little bit extreme, but if that's the sort of situation you find yourself in, you have to do that. You can do that. You can also, as you can see, disable access to the camera, FaceTime. You can disable access to installing apps. So if there was a particular app that you want to disable, let's say we're talking about Facebook or Twitter, you could uninstall the Facebook app and then you could turn on the option that does not allow the student to install other apps. So therefore you're kind of lacking access then to Facebook. And if you've also disabled access to Safari, there's really no way around that. Now you can see there's options there in relation to language and stuff like that. Music and podcasts is currently set to explicit, so I could turn that off. Therefore you can't download or listen to any music that has explicit lyrics. For students that like to download movies onto their iPad, I can set age profiles. I can make sure that the movies they download are only for the age of 12 or so on. TV shows, the same, books, in-app purchases. In-app purchases is an important one. I would just generally leave that off because you don't really want the person who has the iPad in their hand to be able to make purchases within an app. It's not a good idea. I would leave that off. Recording the password, you can just set to immediately, which basically means that as soon as they pick up the device, they're asked for a password to get access to it. So I think that's pretty important. In terms of privacy, these are really up to you. You can enable access to or disable access to certain features. So for example, location services. I don't see a major problem with leaving this on. This is basically where the iPad communicates with the world and tells you where it is. So I would leave that feature on myself. You can see in contacts here, do you want the student who has the iPad to be able to change any of the contact details on the device, change photos, turn on Bluetooth sharing? For Twitter and Facebook, do you want the student to be able to install an app that might allow them access to those things? You can turn that on and off. In terms of accounts, I would not allow changes there. I would not allow a student to be able to create an account, create a new account, create a new email account, all that kind of stuff. I would kind of disable that. Game Center is Apple's own sort of central point of sort of online gaming where students can compete with each other online. If that's not something you want, you can click on the two of them and you can disable those features and so on. Okay, so there's a fair degree of power there in terms of that you have in terms of restricting access to certain features on the device. Okay, so let's just look at guided access now. So I'm going to press the home button. And you can see here, I've come back to my home screen. Okay, now I've actually disabled Safari, so I'm just going to re-enable it again because otherwise I won't be able to show you some of the things that I wanted to do. So you can see I've just put the iPad back into its normal, and you see my Safari icon has reappeared down the bottom. Okay, so I'm going to take the example here of a website where I might want to restrict access. So here's the RTE website. I'm looking at it through Safari. Now, if I wanted to restrict access here to maybe the back button, the forward button, maybe the bookmark button, the search button. So basically, I just want the student to stay on this website. I could turn on guided access. Guided access is 3 clicks of the home button. 1, 2, 3. And you'll see the iPad pops into guided access mode. Okay, let's look at the options that are available. Hardware buttons. Okay, do you want the student to be able to have access to the hardware button, i.e. when they press the home button, something happens? You can disable that so that once they're in an app, they can't come out of it because the home button obviously controls all that. So I'm going to leave it off so the student won't be able to, they can press that home button until Kingdom comes and it won't make any difference. The next option is touch. Yes, I do want the student to be able to, touch the iPad and move things around. And motion, I am going to turn off, so I don't want them to be able to flip the iPad and the screen changes and so on. I'm just going to leave that off. The little black border up here, you can see, I'm just going to press that X there and I'm going to clear that. This enables me to circle with my finger any particular part of the screen that the student won't have access to. So with my finger, I'm going to draw around the top of that bar there, like so. And the iPad's kind of smart and kind of knows what I'm trying to do there. So you'll see that area you want the student to have access to it. I'm going to click start. Okay, guided access started. Now I can work away here. I can click on links. I can open up this RT archives link and so on. But when I press the home button, nothing happens. Guided access is enabled. Right? I'd have to triple click that and then I'd have to know that password. If I don't know it, it's not good to me. I'm stuck here on the RTE website. I can't click on search. I can't click on back and forward. I can't click on the search bar. You can see it's all blacked out. Okay, that could come in handy for you. Triple click, 1111. I want to come out of that. Okay, so I'm going to click end, which is in the top left-hand corner. And that's it. Guided access has ended. I'm going to go back to the home screen. And I'm just going to look at a simpler maybe version of that you might use for guided access. So I'm going to open up GarageBand here that I have. Okay, and this is the amazing GarageBand software. And okay, that's fine. You can see here I've got access to some of the nice sounds that come from the GarageBand string section. Now let's just say I only want the student to be in this app. I don't want them to look at any other app. I want them to stay in GarageBand. Okay, triple click, 1, 2, 3 on the home button. Okay. I want to turn off access to the hardware button, right, to the home button on the iPad, so they can't come out of the application. Okay, I'm going to leave touch. I can even leave motion on. Okay, because if they wanted, they can turn around and stuff. And I'm going to click start. So now I am in GarageBand. I can do the cool things that you can do in GarageBand. I can open up guitars and I can play and I can record and I can probably email this to myself and I can do lots of really cool stuff. But I can't come out of GarageBand. Okay, so if you want to keep someone in task and you want to keep it together, you can do that. If I want to come out of GarageBand, 1, 2, 3 on the home button, type in my passcode, and I can click end. And here I am. I press the home button, and I'm back into my screen. Okay, so I hope you found that helpful.